Welcome, everyone. My name is Tamara Lewis, and I work at Jefferson County Public Schools in the Accountability Research and Systems Improvement Division. My role is Specialist of Accountability and Data Systems, and I want to thank you for attending this session, which is about the cohort graduation rate. In this session, I will start with showing you past and current graduation rate data. I will give you a live demonstration of the graduation rate cohort analysis tool, or the GRCAT. I will touch base briefly on the accountability rules and how schools can use the GRCAT to investigate students on their cohort list. And this presentation is pre-recorded, but I encourage you to put questions you have in the chat box. To follow along, I will put the link to this presentation in the chat box. So let us begin with the why. Why does graduation rate matter? Well, it's a part of our vision at JCPS. It's included in the state accountability. And while accountability has been waived for the 2020 and 2021 school years, they are still reported in the school report card. The accountability as of 2019 includes the average of both the 4 and 5 year graduation rate. In schools with less than 80% on their 4-year grad rate are identified for comprehensive school improvement, or CSI for short. Also, student groups must show improvement in their grad rate from the previous year. And lastly, cohort graduation rate is a part of indicators such as this one for special education. So, what is cohort graduation rate in the first place? Well, there are many criteria that go into determining cohort, but the gist of it are those first-time ninth graders, which make up the cohort and is the denominator of the cohort formula. And of those students who graduate within 4 years with a regular high school diploma are in the numerator of the cohort formula. And the objective is to ensure your list is accurate so your denominator is not inflated with erroneous data. Because if it is, your graduation rate will be negatively impacted. And there are many caveats to cover regarding the cohort graduation rate, but here's just a summary of the frequently asked questions. Now, the one question I want to point out is the last question. Why is a student accountable to my school? And once a student enrolls in your school, they are accountable to you unless they transfer. If their last enrollment is at your school, and including those no-show enrollments, which mean those students who may have never stepped foot in your building, but have a no-show enrollment at your school, then they are accountable at your school. So you're responsible and accountable for that student. Again, this is just a summary, but I've provided the link to the full FAQ document as a resource. So what else? I wanted to show you how schools improved from 2019 to 2020 because they had a better understanding of how to investigate their cohort lists. The objective is to increase the number of students graduating on time and or reduce the cohort. Now, this report shows that Dallas, Fairdale, Iroquois, J-Town, PRP, and Shawnee did both. And in most cases, when you accomplish this objective, you'll also reach the 80% benchmark. Now, the chart at the bottom also shows the improvement from 2019 to 2020. And one of the schools to hone in on is Iroquois, where the blue bar is 2019, and they didn't quite meet the 80% benchmark, which is that green line going across, but they did in 2020. And that's one of the schools that helped develop some of the forms we will look at in a few minutes, and also the process for the tool to investigate and target your students so you can reach that 80%. So kudos to Iroquois for their work in that. And I also want to shout out Valley High School, also helped with that process. And one of the areas that of cohort schools still struggle with last year was among the subgroups. Now, this chart shows the number of schools who improved from 2019 to 2020 and the number of schools that made 80% benchmark. But remember, one of the criteria for accountability is to show improvement among the student groups. Now, the schools making 80% among their subgroups are significant when compared to the number of schools improving. However, we need to look for that improvement from the previous year. Now, this is challenging because in many cases, the numbers of students in some of these groups are small. And the data shows that many schools are reaching the 80% benchmark for those subgroups. So it's challenging to get from the 80% to 81, or from, if you're already at 90% for your group, how do you get them to 95%? So there's some challenges in that area. So now what? In regards to the current 2021 cohort graduation rates, these charts show significant improvements from just October 2020 to June 2021, because number one, the schools received their cohort list much sooner than before. And also schools use the new grad rate tool to investigate and clean up their cohort list. And these same improvements are shown among the student groups, because even the ones meeting 80% benchmark, we have almost all of our 21A1 schools hitting that for many of our subgroups. So kudos to all schools, and the improvements from 2020 to 2021 are significant when you look at what we saw from 2019 to 2020. Now, to address the how and all of the W's, I will go to the GRCAT tool to give you a live demonstration. And if you'd like to follow along, please go to Cascade or use the information guide starting with page 3. And again, I'll put the links in the chat for you. I'm going to go to Cascade. And I'm going to log in. And the first thing you want to notice when you log into Cascade is to check to make sure your location is correct, that this is your school. And then once you're there, you want to find the graduation tab. And that graduation tab, there are 3 links that I want to point out to your attention. The first one is the cohort tool, which we're going to go to shortly, but also you have the link to the cohort 2025 year and the cohort 2021 4-year. And these are static cohort lists from KDE, and they're only updated monthly, whereas the tool is live data in it, but the tool only includes the 4-year cohort. And that's why it's important to know that you have these static reports to work with your 5-year cohort list. And so I'm going to click on the tool link. And so, and before we go any further, this is just a reminder that when you're in the tool, that is this preliminary data. It's not official as of yet. So it's just an opportunity for you to clean up your cohort list before the official reporting. And essentially, there are 3 reports in this tool. And you can click on the README to see more of a description of each of the reports. And also the directions are included and in here on how to navigate the tool. And we also have this cohort information guide in which Again, I provided you all with the link. And so your table to the right here is a summary table. So right off the bat, you're going to know your preliminary graduation rate. And then it's going to also tell you the number of students that would need to come off your list to hit 80, or the number of graduates that need to graduate on time to make 80%. So by default, we have cohort 2021, but you can go all the way to cohort 2024. Now, this is significant because usually we would not have the cohort list until February of that cohort year. So, for example, for 2021, it would have been you wouldn't have had access to your list until February of 2021, which is too late. Ideally, you want to get your cohort list of freshmen, your true freshmen when they walk through the door. So we are providing that now with this tool, which this is very significant and a much needed improvement for graduation rate. And so this other chart that's to your left is the pivot report. And what this chart or table has is just your cohort list, but it's broken out by the end statuses and the graduation status. So if I'm looking at this summary report, and I'm seeing that I need 29 students to graduate on time, what group should I target over here? So I see I have 18 students that are not on time, but they're enrolled. So if you click on the 18, this will give you those students. And so you want to see, why aren't these students on time? Or right away, they're not on time because they're not in grade 12, they're in grade 11. And so you see this one student is a ninth grader. Now, this is where having a cohort list early is essential, because I'm thinking this ninth grader may have, withdrew and went to another state, but they're coded as a CO1 that they just finished after the year and left. And so it's going to be a little bit harder to track this student down, but I would encourage that you do look to see um, if you can figure out if the student actually enrolled somewhere else. Because if you can verify a transfer for this student, then this student can come off of your list. And also looking at these 11th graders. Right now, they're not on time, but are they going to be seniors soon? I mean, will they be able to finish in the summer and by July 31st and graduate on time, which will put them in the numerator as well? So this is a list that will help. And also with having this tool, and you can target specific groups. This is where if you have a team, you all can work together and, okay, I'm going to work on this list of 18. You can export to Excel and share the list. Now, please don't email student data, but if you all can use OneDrive or another secure place to share documents, I recommend that. But this is where you bring your team in to focus on students that you need to figure out what happened to them. And the way you do that is under this directions, you have the investigation form and you have the responsible adult verification form. Because if you find, for instance, that this ninth grader did transfer to another state, you would need to make sure that is documented. And you want to document that using the responsible adult verification form, which it looks like this. This is the document. You want to make sure that it's completed, and counselors, you all have access to load this document to the PLP section of the in Infinite Campus, and any other accompanying documentation. Please load that into Infinite Campus. And also on this form, it says to put in students' permanent record. So you want to make sure any verified transfers are documented. Now, I will say also that any changes to Infinity Campus, the end statuses do have to be confirmed with me. So there's directions here, like changes to end statuses should be reported to me. And you can also upload it into the this site right here, which is a portal to load a student list if you have it. But I need to know, in most cases, I will have to do that for you anyway, because it may be the year you don't have access to the change in Infinite Campus, and I'll work with records department to make sure that information gets updated for you. But also, there's another report that I want to show you in the tool is the filter for your subgroups. And so if I click on African American and then I hit apply filter, so ideally you'll see the report change, because this will be your improvement report. Because remember, for subgroups, it's not the 80% benchmark, it's showing improvement from the previous year. Now this school doesn't have the previous year data, but you want to look for your school. What was it last year and what's the difference? You want to see that be a positive number. But again, because you have drilled down and you got a more targeted group, this not on time enrolled drops from 8, it was 18 at first, it drops down to 12, and you can click to see who are these students. And again, this can be shared out with your team and more of a target. And then let's look at students who are on free reduced lunch. Apply the filter. So that number increase, click on 15. So that number increases from 12 to 15 when you're looking at free and reduced lunch. Again, if that's your target group to work with, you can export it out and share it with your team. Now, keep in mind that you can export your entire cohort list by clicking on export raw student list. And this is for those who want to create maybe your own pivot tables, do your own filters um, and analysis, and share it in a different way. So you do have access to your raw student list. And again, this data is live, pulling from Infinite Campus, so it is updated every night. So you will see changes if that may occur for if you have an incident with your student enrollment, or as you're cleaning up and going through the process. And speaking of cleaning up and going through the process, I wanted to show you the investigation form that was developed by Eric Coy. So thank you. This form actually helps. I mean, that student that we saw that was a ninth grader, maybe if you, one of the techniques is to go to social media, and you might be able to see, oh, well, this student is enrolled in Tennessee, in a school in Tennessee. And that's something that, you can document, and that student can become a W-29 and moved off of your list. So please use this tool as a checklist to go through. Is there a records request? So there's just so many things other than just on this list that you can look at. One of the things is to check in IC for siblings or families. If you see a sibling that have left, then 9 times out of 10 that student has left and went to another state as well. So this is just another way to help you navigate and investigate your cohort list. And so this is the end of the live demonstration, but I do want to show you that I do have the a list of contacts and resources. So if you have any cohort questions, please contact me. If you have technical questions about the cohort tool, please reach out to Ben or Cal. They work really closely with me on the cohort. And also there's some resources if you're interested in more information about the cohort. I also have the monthly cohort summary reports. This shows you aggregate graduation rate data by school. Actually, I can click on this to show you all. So as of June 28th, these are the schools um, in their graduation rates and the number of students needed to hit 80. And so you can look at your school to see where you are. Again, the data we've seen before, we shows that our schools have made significant progress from previous years with cohort. So good job to all the schools for all the work that you all continue to do with cohort. And with that, I would ask you to please use the chat to put your questions and I'll be happy to answer those. So thank you.